Hello everyone.
Imagine what would have happened if Hitler had won World War II. Our world would have been so different today. And how would our daily life have been? Let's start. If you like a map, animated videos related to focus on geography. It sounds like an imaginary story, but it could have happened. In the early 1940s, the whole world was in the grip of World War I. Nazi Germany had captured Poland and France, and it was continuously bombing Britain. Hitler's army had reached inside the Soviet Union, and at the same time Germany had captured some parts of Japan, Asia, and the Pacific. The whole world was at a turning point. Millions of people were dying, and this war had spread to Europe, Asia, and Africa. By 1941, Germany had captured most of Europe, while Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor, and Italy was fighting in North Africa. Allies including America, UK, and the Soviet Union were under a lot of pressure. It felt like the whole world was going into an endless darkness, but then things started to change. In 1942, the Soviet Union pushed back the German forces. After a bloody battle in the Battle of Stalingrad, in North Africa, the Allies stopped the German and Italian forces from advancing. And in the Pacific Ocean, America defeated Japan in a battle like the Midway and destroyed its navy. Then in 1944, the Allied forces landed in Normandy, and they started liberating Western Europe from the control of Germany. Meanwhile, the Soviet army also started advancing towards Germany from the eastern side. By 1945, Germany was surrounded from all sides. In April, Hitler ended his life, and only a month later, the Allies took over Berlin. In May, a few months later, in August, America dropped an atom bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and Japan surrendered. And like this, all these Axis powers, including Germany, lost World War. But what if the Axis powers and Hitler had won World War II? If this had happened, the world would have been divided into two big empires. On one hand, there would have been the Nazi Empire, which was controlled by Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. On the other hand, there would have been the Japanese Empire, which was occupied by Asia and the Pacific, in which China, Southeast Asia, and even some parts of Australia were also included. The Nazis were also controlled by Britain and France. Poland and the Netherlands were also under Nazi control. On the other hand, America would have been left alone, and its leaders would have been pro-Hitler. Now let's talk about how our daily life would have been if Hitler had won this war. Our life would have been completely different from today. Nazi ideology would have covered everything. What you can read, what you can see, what you can say, and even what job you will get, and where you will live. All this would have been under this ideology. There would have been no free press, no free elections, and no internet like today. In the news, only what was allowed by the government was shown. All such books written by religious scholars, black writers, or anti-Nazi people would have been banned in schools. Only Nazi ideology was taught, and history was rewritten so that Hitler could be presented as a hero. And maybe the Holocaust never stops. Similarly, if we talk about the economy, there would have been no free market, and no one could do business. In Nazi Germany, all major industries were under the control of the government. Private companies could only work in that case if their objectives were aligned with Nazi objectives, and most factories were set up to make weapons, especially after 1939. This means that if Hitler had won, then factories would not have made phones, cars, or clothes for ordinary people. Instead, they would have made only weapons, tanks, and other military equipment. Big tech companies like Google or Apple would never have been made, because the government would have kept all kinds of technology under its control so that it could be used for its purposes. The most terrifying aspect of this future is that diversity would have been eliminated from the world, because then there would have been no different cultures, religions, or traditions. The belief of the Nazis was that only one generation has the right to live. If they had been in power, many communities would have been completely eliminated. Religions like Judaism, Islam, and even some Christian sects would have been banned. The cities that were the hub of culture and traditions would have been silent, boring, and lifeless. Even the way people spoke would have changed. German language would have become the national language of some parts of Europe and even America. Music, food, fashion, or art that were against Nazi ideology would have been banned. Science would have progressed, but without any ethics. The Nazis were famous for dangerous experiments on humans. If they had been in power, these dangerous experiments would have been very common. Medical research was not supposed to help people or treat diseases. In fact, that research was used to control the population or to make a perfect human. And this is not just an imaginary thing. The Nazis actually did this. They not only made thousands of people infertile in an experiment called Action T4, but also killed them. These Nazis did some horrible medical experiments on humans in their concentration camps, like changing the color of the eyes, increasing the ability to endure pain, and doing experiments on twins. If Hitler had won, such experiments would have become the norm of science. According to the Nazis, space or the environment does not matter that much, except that these things somehow help them win the war. The biggest example of this is that they made a V-2 rocket, the world's first missile that was not meant to explore space, but its purpose was to destroy London. And the one who made it was a man named Wernher von Braun, who later made space rockets for America. Under the Nazi government, people always lived in fear. The government kept an eye on everything. Neighbors spied on each other, and if you said anything wrong, you could go to jail. And again, this is not an assumption. Hitler had made a secret police called Gestapo, which searched for people and arrested them, on whom they suspected that they were against Hitler. German people were encouraged to report their friends, co-workers, and even family members. In fact, there were some cases where children reported their parents to speak against the Nazis. Public punishments were given to keep people in control by scaring them. Everyone had to show off their loyalty, even if it was a loyal name from the heart. You must be thinking, that was all this really possible? The answer is yes. There were many times in World War when the Allies were losing, like if Hitler had attacked Britain a little earlier, or America had not jumped into this war, or if Germany had captured Moscow, then the world would have been completely different today. If Hitler had won World War II, there would have been a big, cold, and dark environment in the world. Technology was only used to control people, and religions and cultures were damaged a lot. By thinking like this, we come to know that the things we take for granted today, like freedom of speech, democracy, ethical science, or the right to live for any person, no matter what his background is, what his race is, or what his belief is, then we do not have all these things. So the lesson is very clear. Freedom and peace are never guaranteed, and history can repeat itself if we stop paying attention. Hitler did not win this war, but we should keep asking ourselves this question: that what would have happened if he had won? Because only by remembering the past can we protect the future. Today, the world is on a very delicate turn again. The ego of a few big people can push this world into the fire of war. This is such a fire that does not eat these rich big people. It burns only ordinary people like you and me. It seems that we humans have not learned anything from the past, and we are once again moving towards a big war. And this time, this big war can be the cause of the complete end of humanity.
See you in the next video with another interesting topic. Take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.